you a woman in medicine feeling overwhelmed and disconnected from the personal fulfillment that you desire? You're in the right place. Join Doctors Joanne and Aaron as they rewrite the rules for women in medicine. Let's begin.
Welcome to this episode of Create Meaning in Medicine. And we have a special episode prepared for you. We are going to be talking about hope and belief. What does it mean? Why is it important? And how can we generate more of those positive emotions that we have? I love thinking about hope in the definition as the belief that we can have a better future. Because so often we hear about these words and they just sound cheesy, or might have a negative connotation about it, and you might just need to redefine it. So that's how I love to define it. Hope is the belief that we can have a better future, and that is how we move forward. We were talking on our last episode about how to get unstuck, and maybe attaching those beautiful emotions of hope and belief is part of the formula to move forward, to really achieve your goals and dream bigger. And Erin and I were talking earlier, and we always review what are some of the important things that we can bring and that could be helpful. And she shared this beautiful story that literally brought tears to my eyes. And that's where I want to start. Erin, can you share what you were telling me about a physician that you're coaching, and what she shared? And we'll take it from there about the importance of hope.
So I received a text not too long ago from someone who I have known for a few years and had worked with before. And the text said, "I had a dream last night and you were in it. I was swept into an endless cycle of cold river and you jumped in, pulled me out and saved my life. I just wanted to say thank you. I never remember my dreams, but somehow that one was quite vivid." And that was what I woke up to that day. And I thought, I was so grateful that this individual thought to share that with me. And it was a stark contrast to one of the metaphors I've used before, where, as a former lifeguard, I liken physicians feeling like they're drowning. And you're trying to save them. You're on the ship and you throw them this life preserver. And they are so underwater. They don't have the capacity. They don't have the hope or belief that they can be saved. And they can't even reach up to grab onto that life preserver. So I picture myself, I have to dive into the water, swim to them, help them grab onto that life preserver, and physically pull them to safety because they don't have the ability to do that on their own. And when you don't have hope that somebody is there to help you, it can have really negative, awful consequences, like physician suicide that we've talked so much before, where there is the complete absence of hope and belief. And my hope is that on this podcast, we can help inspire people that you can reach out and share with someone, I'm drowning. Can you help me? And that somebody will be on the other end of that request and say, absolutely, I'm here for you.
Oof, this is so powerful. I hear you and I feel it all over again. And also as a psychiatrist, and my brain is spinning into so many different areas, different from what we had before when we were planning this episode. As a psychiatrist, and I teach this to my medical students as well, because we have to assess for suicide, we always ask, have you felt hopeless? And I always feel the answer to that question, because the answer, it's directly related to the risk for suicide. So again, this is a little tangent to what we're talking about, but in talking, we like to do the contrast, and we're talking about hope and then also kind of that sense of hopelessness. And then I usually ask, what's making you feel hopeless? Which is actually not always the same as what's making them feel sad or anxious. And that usually gets to the core of something, a deeper pain that's driving you. And when that's part of what's getting in our way, it can be very heavy. It could be such a mental and emotional drain. And we've talked here about how many of the physicians in general, we tend to deal with a lot of trauma and we suffer in silence. And that's directly linked to hopelessness. So that's one of the many reasons why it's important for us to really think and connect about hope and what does it mean to you and how do you want to define it and how can you get more of it. So Erin, tell me more. Why is it important for us to really connect with that sense of hope and belief?
One of the reasons we've talked about before is our brains are wired with a negative bias. And as physicians, we may understand that from a cognitive perspective, and yet we may not realize how much it can impact our daily thoughts, our daily activities. And if we're constantly seeing the negative, the news is full of negative, and the conversations around us can be full of negative, and especially with so many things that have happened in the last year, whether it's natural disasters, whether it's recent acts of terrorism, whether it's how you feel about politics, any of those things, or just the overwhelming landscape of medicine right now. All of those things can seem completely hopeless and can make us feel paralyzed, that it's so overwhelming. How can anything I do make a difference? And yet, when you go, oh, that's my brain trying to help me survive, which, the worries I have now are different than when my brain, learned this wiring, many, many thousands of years ago. And just like I shared with one of my clients, that I'm drowning and you can help me. And so recognizing that, you may not be alone. You're probably not alone. Many people in medicine are feeling the same way as you, but also asking yourself, what is under my control versus what's out of my control? And when you get laser focused on what is under your control, and then you start making choices that impact what you do have control on and start letting go of what you do not, that's where you can start seeing change happen. And then that will create that momentum, like we talked about in our last episode, where Joanne was talking about getting unstuck from a rut. When you put a little bit of effort, or maybe a lot of effort, to start that momentum to get the positive rolling, when it's so easy to get stuck in the negative, then you build up that momentum, you get more practice. And then, as we've talked before about training our reticular activating system, it gets easier and easier to start seeing the positive and to rewire your brain so that you can more readily access that perspective rather than getting stuck in a rut. So that's one, is really intentionally going against the negative bias that our brains are wired for.
Yeah, that intentionality is everything too. That knowing my brain is doing what it's meant to do. And I can also remind it that it can focus on something else that connects me with that hope and the belief.
And also, getting back to hope and belief, when we have a more empowered attitude where we know that there is some change possible, we have hope and belief that there's change that change is possible, then we get out of that victim mindset. And I remember I felt such the victim for decades in my medical career. Oh, poor me. I work so hard. We've got so many roles as a leader in our organization, as a parent, as a spouse, as a physician, taking care of everyone. And it can be so easy to just go like, nobody appreciates me. I do so many things, poor me. Versus looking at, how are you making an impact? Where are people maybe recognizing you and you're overlooking that, and getting out of maybe making yourself siloed and interacting with other people so that you can hear their perspective maybe about you, or recognizing, oh, I'm not the only one that feels that way, because isolation can really take away some of our hope and belief.
This is so important. I think that we can go on and on about this. And I love thinking about how hope inspires possibility and belief drives action because of how we're thinking about it and how we're feeling about it, and how those two emotions can be so powerful to really move us forward. I love everything that you shared, Erin. It's so important. Like, and I wish we could hear this message on a daily basis. We should start our day saying, how can I connect with hope more today? What belief can I have this morning that will allow me to have a better day and take the actions that are aligned with my bigger goals? That I believe that we would feel better and move forward more in the direction that we want to go.
And you actually can take small steps. We talk about, you don't have to take a big leap, but what if the first few moments of your day were started with gratitude? I'm so blessed that my family is healthy. I love the house that I live in. How lucky am I to have these children? Whatever your blessings are, whatever you're grateful for. And you can even bookend your day, starting your day with that gratitude. What are you looking forward to? And at the end of the day, planting in your brain, your subconscious, right before you go to sleep, about what you're grateful for, and also maybe what you're looking forward to the next day. So we can tap into those. It doesn't take a lot of time, it takes intention and choosing, am I going to have hope and belief as a regular part of my day? And what is it that I need to do? I talk about creating a recipe in our lives. And so I'm constantly with my coaching clients asking them about their recipe. Is it relevant? How much of this do you have in your recipe? How much of that? What do you need to get ready for next week? What do you need to recover from the last several days? And if you need more hope and belief in your life, you could commit to just 2 minutes a day. When you first wake up, 2 minutes at night. I have these tiny little journals. There's one right around my office. It looks like this, and it's a little unicorn. And I bought this at the Met Museum when I was visiting my daughter. And I'm oftentimes encouraging people, be a unicorn. Don't be a horse or a zebra, be a unicorn, because that means you're getting out of the ordinary results as a woman in medicine. And you're not having the same burnout, the same overwhelm, the same stressors. And so for each of my one-on-one clients, I bought them this journal that has this beautiful white unicorn on it. And I also bought some other sparkly journals, which hopefully they've received in the mail by the time that they might hear this. And I bought these gold sparkly journals and these gold pens that were gifts for my one-on-one clients. And it was about taking those gold sparkly moments and having a place to put them, whether that's your gratitudes, whether that's a heartfelt appreciation that you got from one of your patients, whether that's something loving that your child said to you. But having a place to put those things so that when you're feeling an absence of hope and belief, you have that special place that you can go to, that you can look at and go, oh yeah, this patient, one of my clients said to me the other day, one of her patients says, you are the only reason as my physician that I'm staying with this organization. And I said, if you haven't written that down yet, go do that right now. So powerful, because on those days where she's dragging and she's not getting home until way later than she wanted to, or has a tiff with her husband about how much she's working, she can go back to that and recognize how powerful her just being how amazing she is having an impact on that one patient that needs her to be that resource for her within an entire organization. So powerful.
Wow. I love that. I've shared here, Erin likes this story that I had a coach a long time ago that told us whenever a patient tells you thank you pause dramatically. You look at them in the eye and you say, can you repeat that? So that they say thank you again. It's so hard to do. I've done it and it's very, very difficult. So I've learned to just pause and put my hand in my heart like I do so automatically. And I just say, thank you. I take it. I receive your thank you, and really believe it. And we don't do that enough. And I love the idea of take those sparkling moments and have a place to put them. Even if you don't have a beautiful unicorn journal, even if you just write it to a sticky note and put it in your computer, have a place that you can look at all the amazing things that you do and those beautiful moments that can fill up your heart on those days that are more difficult. That's amazing.
I want to go a little deeper in that because just recently I had a couple of one-on-one coaching calls, and it makes me um, really sense how difficult it can be for women to hear positive affirmations about them. And I look at it as just pouring on things that I'd heard them tell me that they'd been told by others about them, things that I observed in them. And I just laid it on heavy. And I saw how uncomfortable they were with me saying, like, you are such an amazing human just by you being you. You are in a really hard time right now, but you are the exact right person that is needed for that circumstance. Nobody else can do it. And to see them try and hear what I was saying. And I said, think of yourself as like a fly on the wall, observing yourself in the third person, getting these compliments. Can you get to a place where you yourself can see the beauty in you, can see the power in you, can see the strength and what others see in you because you are so unique and special? And it was beautiful and sad all at the same time because I loved showering them with heartfelt observations. And yet it was painful because it was really hard for them to hear those words.
It's one of the reasons why I love coaching. And I've shared this that frequently our coach is able to see things in ourselves that we can't. And it sounds like you, as a coach, were able to reflect so much of that to them. And I say, if you don't yet fully believe in yourself, borrow someone else's belief in you in the process, which it sounds like what you were doing as her coach. What an inspiring moment. It can be so powerful. And we do that for other people regularly. We need to practice more of absorbing that belief that others have in us while we're in the process, especially like we are talking in the last episode. If there's difficult times or we're feeling stuck, right, we connect with that hope and belief and we move forward. So neat. So Erin, moving forward, so you shared some of it already, but give us more specifics of how having more of that hope and belief can really impact our outcomes. Because, of course, we've been talking about goals and habits and dreaming bigger. And sometimes people hear these words and, they tell me like, oh, there you go with your psychobabble woo-woo stuff. And I said, no, this is so important. So give us some examples.
Okay, I'm going to first write that down. Psychobabble woo-woo stuff always makes me smile. In the last episode, I blundered this quote by Henry Ford, and it was, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. I'm going to say it again, the correct way this episode. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And when we talk about the importance of hope and belief, when we believe something's possible, it might be able to happen. And sometimes that may seem naive or oblivious or crazy in a good way. And yet we need to borrow whatever emotion, feeling that's going to help us get the outcome that we want. And you and I, as coaches, know that how we think writes the script of the actions we take, which then directly impacts our outcomes. And I missed a step. The thoughts that we have directly impacts the feelings that we have, our emotions, which drive our actions and inactions, which then drive our outcomes. And when we have unintentional thoughts that are driving outcomes we don't want, then it's time to pause. And like Joanne said in our last episode, get a very clear, precise roadmap of where you want to go. And then if you need to rewrite that thought script, replace your old thoughts that aren't serving you with ones that will. And that is something that can be hard. Like you can self-coach yourself like that. For myself, I needed years of getting coached by someone else in order to get much better at coaching myself on doing just that, rewriting my script. In our last episode, Joanne was talking about the power of creating a very clear roadmap so you know exactly where you're going. And the power of belief and hope is instrumental to that in order to believe that it's possible and being clear in where you want to go.
So, Erin, I know you've already mentioned several things that we can do, like start with gratitude and be very intentional. But what are some other very specific things that we can do so that we can generate more of that hope and belief?
There are so many things that we can do. And one of the main ones is that don't be isolated. Get in not just any community, but the right community. And we've shared that so many times on this podcast, the power of community. The right community should be non-negotiable in your life, whether that means, reconnecting with your girlfriends. For Joanne and I, we've joined different personal development communities, masterminds, and really grown our community of people who believe in us. Maybe it's fostering connections between those that you work with or people in certain or in similar circumstances. And you will then have more recognition that the things you're dealing with, you're not alone. I know the more that I coach other women in medicine, the more I realize things that when I was practicing medicine and not speaking with coaches, not working with groups, the things that I thought were Erin problems are actually quite widespread, very common amongst other women in medicine. And the power with just realizing I'm not alone, and that maybe if I share some of my wins with other individuals that are struggling with the same, not only have I helped myself, and now I'm having a ripple effect of helping other women in medicine. And then also, I've spoken about this before, is the power of reflection. And sometimes we may feel like we're stuck somewhere. I know I talked to somebody, they were hiking Mount Kilimanjaro. And I've never been there myself, but my understanding is lots of flat desert and the mountain seems so far away. And they'd been walking and walking and walking. And because of the way of the horizon looked to them, it didn't look like they'd made any forward progress and they were getting really discouraged. And it took them turning around, looking at the road that they'd traveled, seeing that wherever they'd started was no longer in the horizon. They truly had made forward progress. And for me, that's been looking back at journals, my notes that I've taken during workshops or during my own coaching sessions, to look back and go, oh yeah, I remember there was this time that I was stuck in this place. I had hope. I connected with others. I connected with a coach in my case to help me get unstuck. I had the belief that I could do hard things and make changes. And then I had this roadmap in my journaling and in my notes that I was able to reflect on and go, that's where I made that change. And what other change is possible? What else can I believe in myself using that forward momentum that I've already built from the changes that I've already accomplished, big or small, to keep that momentum going?
So good to look back so that we can focus on the strengths and really pat ourselves in the back of all the forward movement and use that as leverage to keep on moving forward. This is so powerful. This has been such an inspiring episode in talking about why it is so important, specifically for us women in medicine, that we have such a negative bias. We all do, because it's what our brain does. And then having the intention to focus and have that belief, like you mentioned in some prior episode, of I can do hard things, and that the empowerment to move forward, and the knowing that it is possible, and that it can affect how we think, how we feel, the actions that we take, so that we can have those positive outcomes that we want. And to know, like we say in this podcast a lot, we talk about these big goals, and yet we can start small. We can set incremental goals and focus on the beautiful things like gratitude on a regular basis, and know that you're not alone, and the power of community. And like you said in the last episode, these themes that are coming up, I hope that you are picking up on that, because this is the recipe, this is the formula, this is our foundation to really move forward in life, feeling better, and connecting with that higher self. And Erin, tell us something maybe that I haven't asked you that adds to what we're already talking about here.
It is never too late to start. It's never too late to start having more hope, that you can have more belief in yourself, in your organization, in your family, in your relationships. It's never too late. I've shared, I worked in my career for 2 full decades before I started getting significant change. I didn't have the hope or belief that it was possible until my awareness was raised that there is a different way to practice medicine. There was a different way to parent, a different way to be in my marriage. And that even though I didn't start till I was 50, oh my goodness, the changes that have occurred in the last, 7 to 8 years are so powerful. And I'm so grateful that I made that change when I did. So never too late to make those changes, no matter how far into your career you are, no matter how old you are, you can have hope and belief that change is possible.
I hope that you are as inspired as I am with this episode of Hope and Belief. And we would love it if you go to the homepage of this podcast, to the show. And if you haven't, please give us an honest rating and review. That is how we get in front of other people. That is how we get the honest feedback, so that we can be better and give you more of what we need. And remember, like Erin said, be a unicorn, and stay tuned, because the next episode is coming right up.
Do you want exclusive resources and the opportunity to connect with us? Then visit createmeaninginmedicine.com now, where you'll dive deeper into how you can create meaning in medicine. And if you're serious about optimizing your results, take 2 quick steps now. Connect with us on the website and tune in to the next episode.